Hawaii was bright that day, so bright it felt like the sun had leaned close to watch. The sea was a huge sheet of blue beside the hotel lawn, and the flower arch smelled like sugar and salt. Everyone said it was the perfect American wedding. A wide view, a white dress, a violin under the breeze. My sister, Madison, stood at the center of it all, her hair pinned with tiny pearls, taking the light as if it belonged to her. I walked up the path in a soft blue dress and looked for my place card. I checked the head table, the family table, and the far table near the hedge. I checked every row. My name was not there. I asked a server, who sent me to the planner. The planner checked a tablet and frowned, then smiled a thin smile and said, "I'm sure it's a small mix-up." I knew that voice. It was the voice people use when the truth is not small at all. I found Madison near the bar and told her, straight and simple, that I could not find my seat. She looked me over slowly, from my shoes to my face, as if I were a stain she might rub out. Then she smirked and said, clear enough for the cousins to hear, "Low-level minds have no seat at this table." Laughter came like popped corn, quick, hot, and careless. My parents, Linda and Robert, did not stop it. My mother lifted her glass and shrugged. My father stared at the ocean as if I were the wind and not his daughter. No one there knew the truth of how the day had been bought. I had wired $18,000 to the venue months ago after a call where Madison sobbed about dates selling out. I had sent $4,500 for the band because she wanted live music, not a playlist. I had paid $3,200 to the planner who is now telling me the mix-up would be fixed. When Madison found a dress that made her cry happy tears, I handed over my card and covered the remaining $2,400 without a word. When she asked for little things, favors, tips, the extra pastries, those little things stacked up to another $1,100. I paid because I wanted a calm season and because I was used to being the one who solved problems with dollars. I told myself that money was soft power, a warm blanket that could keep a family from getting cold. The blanket caught fire that afternoon. Guests drifted to their places, the officiant cleared his throat, and I stood alone with a clutch bag and a face that felt too hot. I looked at the chairs and thought how easy it would have been to add just one. One chair, one card, one small grace. But the point was not the seat. The point was the show. My sister wanted me small, and my family wanted to laugh. I swallowed and tasted salt that was not from the sea. I could have caused a scene. I could have listed every dollar out loud. I could have asked the planner to announce, on her famous microphone, who had paid the balance due. I did none of that. I turned and walked off the lawn. The violin kept playing as if nothing important had happened. In the elevator up to my room, the mirror showed a woman I almost knew. I am the one telling you this, and I am a woman who has loved America for its wide roads and second chances, but in that small box, I looked like a ghost in a nice dress. I closed the door behind me and set my clutch on the bedspread. I opened my banking app and looked at the scheduled transfers for the final wedding dues. $2, $800 for the late-night snacks, $900 for the overtime staff, $600 for the cleanup team. I canceled each one. My hands shook, but my mind was calm in a way I had not felt in years. I emailed the vendors and said, in plain words, that I would not be responsible for any remaining balances. I told them to bill the bride directly. It took 10 minutes to undo the tired story of my life. Then I sat on the carpet with my back against the bed and let the quiet fill the room. Through the sliding door, I could hear the ocean and the far, bright noise of the party below me. I thought of childhood rides across America in the back seat, my father saying we were a strong family brand, my mother passing out snacks, Madison bouncing and asking for more. I thought of how I had grown into the role of the smoother, the one who sends the pounds or dollars, the one who keeps the peace. I am not ashamed to say I wanted peace more than praise. But peace that is bought with self-erasure is not peace. It is a soft, slow kind of harm. I took a breath and felt my ribs move like doors that had been stuck for years. Night fell fast, as it does in that part of America. I turned on one lamp and packed my suitcase, methodical and steady.
Dress in the garment bag.
Shoes wrapped in tissue. Charger, makeup, book. I opened a new tab and searched flights back to the mainland. A one-way seat to Denver showed up at $389. I bought it. I printed the boarding pass at the small desk printer, and the paper slid out warm and thin, like a new plan. I texted the hotel front desk for a cab at dawn. I set my phone to silent. Messages stacked up anyway. My mother. Where did you go? My sister. You made things awkward, as usual. An uncle. Don't be dramatic, it's just seating. Not one of them asked if I was okay. I slept like someone who has set down a heavy bag at last. In the morning, I walked to the shore before the airport car came. The sky was pink, and the water was a blue I wish I could keep in a jar. Joggers went past, and a child laughed at a dog that did not care about grand parties or table charts. I told myself out loud the truth of the night. This ends now. Saying it made room inside my chest. I believe in new starts. America is full of them. At the curb, the driver asked if I had enjoyed my stay. I said, it taught me what I needed. He nodded as if people said that kind of thing every day. At the airport, I found a chair, the funny kind of detail that sticks, and sat with a cup of coffee and a quiet heart. I thought of my blue dress and my empty place, and the way a single seat can show you a whole life. I thought of the house I would find back on the mainland, with a door that locked and a table that would always have a chair for me. I thought of my name on the deed, and my name on the mailbox. No more paying to be allowed inside. No more winning love with invoices. When the plane boarded, I chose the window. As the island fell away and the wide water opened, I pressed my palm to the glass and said what I had said the night before, a promise and a plan. In America, I can start again. I landed in Denver with 2 suitcases and the kind of quiet that feels like a clean page. The air was dry, the sky wide, and the streets had tall cottonwood trees that moved like slow dancers. I walked through a neighborhood of small homes and stopped at a blue one with a white door and a short porch. It looked like a place that could hold a steady life. The rent was $1,850 a month, which made my stomach jump, but the agent slid over the lease and said, "It's yours if you want it." I wanted it. I signed my name and felt a click inside, like a lock turning the right way. The first night, I slept on the floor with a folded sweater as a pillow. In the morning, I opened the curtains to bright sun and looked at the empty rooms like they were simple math problems I could solve. I bought a secondhand couch for $140 and 2 lamps for $29 each, and I found a long wooden table for the kitchen that had 4 chairs and a gentle wobble. I liked that table. It said, "Eat, right, rest." I painted the smallest bedroom bright yellow, even though the paint clerk warned me it might be too much. I wanted too much joy to be normal in my home. I made a small budget on paper. Food, rent, power, water, internet, and a line that read, house care. I went to a big box store and bought plates for $72, a pot, a pan, a broom, and a cheap rug. When I carried the bags in from the car, a neighbor waved from across the street. She had a lazy dog and a kind voice. "I'm Grace," she said. "Welcome." I said thanks and felt a heat at the back of my eyes, the good kind that comes when a stranger says your name like it belongs on the street. I hung a simple map in the yellow room, America and Europe side by side, blue and green, and liked how it looked like open routes. My job lets me work from home 3 days a week, and on the other days I take the light rail to an office in downtown Denver. I set up my laptop on the long table, and the hum of the dishwasher became my new white noise. Work felt better when I was not trying to please people who measured me by how much I paid them. I finished tasks early, took short walks around the block, and learned how the light moved across the blue walls as the day passed. At night, I wrote down small wins, fixed the leaky faucet, cooked soup, paid the electric bill on time, sat in the sun for 10 minutes. In my old life, I had written only checks. Now I wrote down proofs that I existed in my own right. Connor called from New York to ask if I had calmed down about the wedding incident. He said it like weather, as if a storm had simply passed through, and I should mop the floor and carry on. I told him I had canceled the payments and moved to a new place. He went quiet, then asked if I planned to fix it with my family. He used words like peace and brand, words that never felt like family to me. "I'm not paying again," I said. He told me I was being small, which was funny because I had never felt so large. When the call ended, I stared at my phone and knew something between us had shifted from bent to broken. The calls started to come from other numbers. Madison left a voice message in a sweet tone that did not match the words. "Hey, can you just cover the last bits? It's what a good sister does." My mother, Linda, wrote long texts that read like scolding letters. "You owe us dignity. You don't shame us in public. This is not how we do things in America." A man named Lucas, who drifted in and out of our family circle, sent short, hard notes. "Pay what you promised. We can make this ugly. Duty matters." They wanted money at first. Then they wanted me to come back to the old story, where I was useful and quiet. I pressed block on each number and felt fear tug at my ribs, but I did not change my mind. I changed other things instead. I got a new phone plan and a new email. I put a camera at the front door for $129 and a heavy deadbolt for $220. I gave the landlord the plate number of my car and asked for my name to be kept off the buzzer. None of this felt dramatic. It felt like sweeping glass from a floor after a break. When I told Connor, he said I was overreacting and making enemies. I wanted to tell him that enemies are often born inside the word family when money is the language, but I kept it simple. I won't be used. He told me he had a meeting and hung up. The Blue House taught me small joys. I learned the sound of the mail slot, the scratch of the broom on the porch boards, the way coffee smells better when it is made in a quiet kitchen you pay for yourself. On Sundays, I walked to the park, past a little library box, and took home paperbacks that had other people's notes in the margins. Denver felt like a place that would hold me steady. The cottonwood swayed, the buses came on time, and the sky kept its promise of wide blue most days. I held the knowledge that I could stand alone and not fall apart. The country did not feel cruel in my new life. It felt like a big room with a door I had learned to lock. At night, I heard my own breath and nothing else. Some evenings, Grace would wave me over, and we talked about paint colors and cheap fixes and good coffee. She never asked about my family. It was a gift. I told her I liked the quiet. She said, "Quiet is a kind of music." I believed her. I put $300 a month into a small savings account and wrote it at the top of my budget like a promise. When I was tempted to send a just this once payment to anyone from my past, I moved the money instead to that account and watched the number grow. It felt like strength you could count on, a shape that could not lie. The house settled around me as the weeks turned, and my days gained a simple shape: work, food, walks, rest. I cooked pasta and read before bed. I took out the trash on the right night and learned the names of 2 more neighbors. I did not visit New York, and I did not invite New York to visit me. When Connor called, I kept the calls short and plain. He asked why I was so sure about the move. I told him I liked my own voice in these rooms. He said it would pass. I said I hoped it wouldn't. When I slept like a stone dropped in a clear lake. No dreams, no noise, just the true weight of myself resting where it belongs. One evening, after a full day of small tasks, I sat alone at the long table with a bowl of soup, and I understood that this was not a pause between storms. This was a life. My blue house with the white door, my yellow room, my 4 chairs, my map on the wall, my name on the lease, and my budget in my own hand. It was not a grand scene. It did not need a string quartet or a view of the ocean. It needed me to be present and to keep my word to myself. And I did. In America, people talk about fresh starts as if you have to travel far to find them. I learned you can climb one step, turn a key, and sit at your own table. That is far enough. Connor flew to Denver on a pale Saturday when the sky looked like it would never decide on blue. I saw him through the front window, standing on my small lawn in a city suit that did not belong to the block. He did not text first. He did not ask if it was a good time. He rang the bell twice, sharp and fast, like a warning. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch, keeping the screen between us. He looked past me into the house, as if he still had a key. "You're ruining the family brand," he said, and the words were so polished they slid off the step. I told him I was saving myself, and I meant it. He smiled the way people smile when they think they can outlast you. He said he could calm things down on the New York side if I would send $5,000 to settle matters. His words, like we were closing a tab at a bar. He called it a gesture of good faith, even though faith had not paid a bill for me in years. I felt my hands go still on the doorknob. "No," I said. He blinked as if I had broken a rule that kept the world spinning. He told me we were done. I said we had been done for a long time. We were only now using true names. The quiet after he left felt strange, like a room after a loud TV is turned off. I made tea and walked the rooms of my blue house, touching the backs of chairs and the edge of the yellow doorframe. It wasn't triumph that I felt, and it wasn't fear, or not only fear. It was steadiness. I had been waiting for someone to tell me what my life should be. I had been paying for the answer in little and large amounts, like a meter that never stopped. Now I had turned the meter off. The porch boards were warm from the sun. They held my weight just fine. The messages turned dark within days. Madison left a voicemail that started sweet and ended sharply. She said I owed her because I had started the wedding by sending the first dollar, as if money had a tail you were bound to hold until it pulled you under. My mother wrote paragraphs about duty and respect and the way things are done in America, and I wondered how many times a person could say the word duty before it lost all shape. A man named Lucas, half friend, half threat, texted that he knew people who could make me listen. The words were small on the screen and large in my chest. I did not answer. I opened a new note on my laptop and saved every message, every timestamp, every number. I took screenshots and backed them up to a small drive I kept in a drawer with rubber bands and tape. I printed a stack and put it in a folder labeled in black marker. Keep. It felt clinical and clean. When my hands shook, I pressed them flat on the long table until the wood told me I was here. The camera at my door, which I'd bought for $129, caught two cars driving by slowly in the night, but no one stopped. I watched the clips in the morning light and made coffee and blamed the shadows on the wind. When the folder was full enough to make a dull sound on the table, I made an appointment with a lawyer named Carla. Her office was in a brick building near the county courthouse, the kind of place with a bowl of mints and a view of the street. She wore a navy jacket and spoke in plain words. I told her everything, from the empty chair in Honolulu to the screen door where Connor said, "We're done." I slid the printouts across her desk. She read in a quiet that felt like shelter. "You are safe," she said finally. "Document everything. Do not pay. If they come to your home, call the police. If they threaten you again, we can talk about a protective order." I asked if this was what people did, turning family into files. She said people did what they had to do to stay whole. She gave me a list of steps on white paper. Keep records, change passwords, set up two-factor, talk to the bank about alerts, and consider a P.O. box. I walked out with the list in my hand, and a breath I did not know I was holding. I stopped at the post office and rented a box for 3 months, $1.84, a small price for a lock between me and the world. That afternoon, I drove to a hardware store and picked a new mailbox from the shelf, plain black metal for $65, and a stronger strike plate for the front door. I had already paid $220 for the heavy deadbolt, but the new plate made the click sound deeper, like a promise with weight. Work kept me steady. The rhythm of tasks and calls filled the hours, and the hum of the dishwasher at night felt like a small song. When I had to stay late at the office downtown, Grace watered my plants and sent a photo of the blue house at dusk. "You're lit like a lighthouse," she texted, and I saved the picture. I started keeping a simple ledger in a notebook. $1.60 for a stamp, $9.25 for flowers on a Friday, $31 for a new kettle when the old one gave up. It was not about the numbers. It was about seeing the shape of my days and knowing I was the one drawing it. A week after Connor's porch speech, a small padded envelope came to the P.O. box. Inside was a book and a card from Daniel, a friend from college who had stayed kind across long years. The card had 5 words. "Use this on yourself." A $50 bill slipped out like a green leaf. I stood by the counter under a poster of America's national parks and cried in a way that didn't hurt. On the way home, I bought fresh bread, good cheese, and a little jar of honey. I set the meal on my long table and ate slowly, tasting each bite as if I were learning a new language. The threats did not stop right away, but they changed shape when I stopped answering. Madison pivoted to apology, the light kind that floats on top of old harm. My mother sent a photo of a family dinner I was not at. Her note said, "We can fix this if you behave." Lucas went quiet after I told Carla about him. Connor sent one text, "You'll regret this," and I saved it, then blocked him. I learned that silence is not empty. It is a space where you can place what matters and close the lid. Some nights I still woke and checked the door. I would put my palm on the deadbolt and feel the cool metal, the simple machine of it, honest and strong. I made a rule. No talking about them after 8 o'clock. No reading their messages at my kitchen table. No letting their names live rent-free in the rooms I paid for. I wrote in my notebook, not a battle, a boundary. I taped Carla's list inside the cover and checked off the steps, one by one. The house began to feel not just like a shelter, but like a decision I had made and kept. On a Sunday, Grace and I painted a small wooden shelf for the yellow room. We listened to old songs and let the paint dry in the sun. "What will you put on it?" she asked. "Things that are mine," I said, and we both laughed at how simple and large that sounded. I placed the book by Daniel there, the empty envelope, and a photo of the blue house printed at the pharmacy for 45 cents. I looked at the map on the wall, America and Europe side by side, and traced with my eye the lines I could travel someday on my own terms. The break, when it came, was not loud. It was a series of clicks. The end of a call, the turn of a lock, the shut of a mailbox, the close of a folder. Each sound was small. Together, they were a song I could live inside. I did not pay. I did not apologize for not paying. I worked, I cooked, I healed. I learned that in America, there is a strength in choosing your own seat and in keeping it, even when someone tells you the table is not for you. I sat at my long table, set one plate, lit a candle, and ate the meal I had bought with my own dollars. The house held me. The night was quiet. I was not afraid. Months went by, and my blue house learned the sound of me. The cottonwoods outside turned their leaves like pages, and I kept my day simple. Work at the long table, a walk at noon, soup on the stove, lights out by 10. I marked each bill paid in my notebook and watched my small savings climb by steady inches. The camera above the porch light sent me polite clips of delivery drivers and birds. On a bright Saturday, I baked a pan of cornbread and opened the windows to the dry Denver air. Around 3 o'clock, the camera chimed again. Not a bird, not a box. 3 cars eased to the curb in a row, big as opinions. I knew them before they knocked. Madison stepped out first in a white dress, the kind of white that wants attention. My mother, Linda, followed with her purse held high, as if a bag could shield a person. Lucas came too, slick hair, slick smile, the same man who had sent texts shaped like threats. Behind them stood 2 cousins I barely knew, eyes already sliding over my house like they were pricing it. I texted Grace one word, visitors, and she replied, "Want me to come by?" I wrote back, "I'm okay," then slipped my phone into my pocket and stood at the door, hand on the heavy deadbolt I had bought for $220. They knocked in turns, like a short drum line. I opened the door just enough to see them, but not enough to make a path. I kept the screen shut. The cottonwoods hissed in the wind behind them, leaves acting like crowd noise. Madison went first, her voice bright. "We're sorry for the scene," she said, as if the scene were a small stain we could dab away. My mother nodded and added, "Families should be together. We want to reset." Lucas leaned forward as if he were in on a joke. "Where have you been?" he said. "Who's been helping you?" He said, "He missed me." He said they wanted their girl back. The words were soft. The push inside them was not. I heard my lawyer's voice in my head. Document everything. Do not pay. Do not explain. And I let the quiet stretch. In that pause, I remembered the empty chair in Honolulu, the thin laugh that ran through my family like a wire, and the dollars I had sent like rain. $18,000 to the venue, $4,500 to the band, $3,200 to the planner, $2,400 for the dress, $1,100 for all the little things. The math sat inside me like a stone tablet. They had wanted me there as a wallet. They had staged my absence as a joke. Now they wanted something else. The old version of me who would smooth, pay, and nod. I don't want to reset, I said. My voice surprised me with how even it sounded. Madison blinked, as if that word were off script. My mother tried a new tone, heavy and slow. Be reasonable, she said. This is America. We don't cut blood. I thought of all the times people hide harm behind big words. Lucas spread his hands. Look, he said, the vendors still have small balances. If you send, say, $3,700, we can call it square. We're here to solve this. The old me would have reached for my wallet to make the noise stop. The woman at this door did not move an inch. No, I said. I'm not paying, and I'm not returning to the old order. I saw anger flash across Lucas's face before he smoothed it. Madison's eyes filled with quick tears that did not travel. My mother pressed her purse to her chest and tried the door with memory alone, as if she could make it open by habit. We came all this way, she said, as if miles were a reason. I thought of the map in my yellow room, America and Europe side by side, and how every route meant a choice. I had already chosen mine. A short walk from the stove to the table, a seat with my name on it. I don't forgive you, I said. The words were clean, not cruel. Don't show your face in the future. I meant it for all of them, each in their own way. The wind lifted Madison's white dress at the hem. It fluttered like paper. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Lucas exhaled a small laugh that had no joy in it. You'll change your mind, he said. You always do. I let the screen door stand between us like a fact. Not anymore, I said, and I closed the solid door until only a ribbon of daylight was left, then shut that too. The latch clicked like a soft bell. The sound pleased me for its honesty. They didn't leave at once. Through the peephole, I watched them talk in tight circles, hands waving, faces spun with offense. I thought about calling the police just to set a record, but the wind picked up and the cottonwoods raised their voice, and after a few minutes, the cars started and pulled away. The camera caught their exit in 3 neat clips, which I saved. I texted Grace. All good. She sent a heart and a picture of her lazy dog asleep under a window. The house felt like it drew a longer breath once the street was quiet. I set the chain and the deadbolt, then pressed my palm to the door. It was cool from the shade, steady under my hand. In the kitchen, I brewed coffee and set 1 mug on the long table. I opened my notebook and wrote the date and a sentence. Family came. I kept the boundary. I moved $100 from checking to savings to mark the moment in numbers I could point to. I looked around at what was mine. The blue walls, the yellow room, the shelf Grace and I painted, the book from Daniel standing proud on it, the plain black mailbox I had picked out for $65, the new strike plate that made the lock sound deep. None of it was grand. All of it was paid for in dollars I earned with my own time. I felt rich in a way that lives close to the bone. I called Carla and left a brief message. They came to the house. I declined and they left. I have clips. I put my phone face down and ate a square of warm cornbread with honey. The sweetness spread slowly. I thought of forgiveness, not as a prize to hand out, but as a tool you use when it builds safety. Today, it would not build anything I wanted. Today, the right tool was the door and the sentence I had chosen. I cleaned the coffee mug, set it on the rack to dry, and watched a patch of sun slide across the kitchen floor until it found the wall and climbed. I won't pretend there was no grief. Grief has its own key to the house. It enters by the quiet rooms and sits with you without speaking. I let it be. I did not call anyone to fill the silence. I did not measure my worth by who might be standing on my porch asking to come in. I wrote another line in the notebook. Not a battle, a boundary. When the light turned gold, I pulled the map straight on the yellow wall and traced, with my eyes, places I might go someday because I want to Maybe a small coastal town in America where the air smells like rain. Maybe a museum with a quiet room where I can sit and name what I see. Evenings softened the edges of the house. I set one plate, one fork, and one knife on the table and ladled out soup. The chair I took fit me because it was chosen for me by me. No head table, no smirk, no price to pay to belong. The camera stayed quiet. The cottonwoods cooled. When I finished eating, I blew out the candle and listened to the ordinary sounds of a house ready to sleep. The soft tick of the oven, the small sigh of the vents, the faint city hush beyond the glass. It wasn't a grand ending. It was better. It was mine.